Picture this. It's 4:00 p.m. on a Tuesday.
Just a totally ordinary day.
Right, a completely ordinary day. Technically speaking, nothing bad has happened to you. Like, there was no argument at the office, no crisis at home, no flat tire.
Anything you could point to and say, that's why I'm stressed.
Exactly. And yet, you are sitting there feeling completely just bone-deep exhausted. Something has clearly been spent. And when people ask what took it out of you, you probably just shrug.
Yeah, you blame the hour or maybe the weather.
Right. As if this draining fatigue is just some passing storm system, rather than a specific urgent report from your biology about what it has actually been going through all day.
Which is so common.
It really is. And if you have ever felt this mysterious, unaccountable exhaustion, our deep dive today is going to uncover exactly what is draining you.
It's a remarkably universal experience, and yet we so rarely have the vocabulary for it. What we're unpacking today from the source material is this realization that this specific type of tiredness isn't a lack of sleep.
Or a need for a third coffee.
Right. It's actually the first reliable biological sign that you are moving through the world without what the text calls an energetic cloak.
Okay, so when I first hear the word cloak, my mind instantly goes to, like, something out of a fantasy novel. Or maybe some woo-woo mysticism.
Sure, like a magical force field or something.
Exactly. But the mission of our deep dive today is to strip away the mysticism entirely. We are going to look at the hard biological acoustics of the human nervous system.
And that's the crucial part.
Yeah, we're going to map out the physical mechanics of emotional contagion, figure out the dangerous difference between putting up reactive armor versus wearing a sustainable cloak, and understand why protecting your energy isn't some selfish wellness buzzword.
It really isn't.
It's the absolute non-negotiable prerequisite for having any genuine connection with other people.
Yet grounding this in biology is essential because we aren't talking about decorative auras here. We are talking about anatomy. The human nervous system is porous by default. Our bodies are continuously reading the room, and that reading is an incredibly expensive biological process.
Expensive how? Like physically?
Literally physically. When you walk into a space, your vagus nerve, which basically acts like a primary surveillance system connecting your brain to your gut, is instantly scanning for safety.
Oh, wow.
Your brain is calculating micro expressions on the faces around you, assessing tone of voice, posture, tension, and your mirror neurons are actively trying to map the emotional state of the room onto your own body so you can understand it.
So not a passive thing.
Not at all. It burns actual measurable glucose.
Wait, really? So when I walk into a meeting where, say, two coworkers were just arguing right before I got there, and I instantly feel a knot in my stomach that isn't just me picking up a vibe.
No, your body is physically doing the work of recreating their stress inside your own nervous system.
That is wild.
Your nervous system is metabolizing their tension as felt material. It is exactly like how if you lean against a freezing cold window, your skin takes on that temperature.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
You don't just notice the tension in a room. For a while, you actually become tense yourself. Your heart rate might elevate slightly. Your cortisol levels might tick upward.
Even if I had absolutely nothing to do with the argument.
Exactly. Your body does this whether or not you had anything to do with where that tension originally came from.
Well, that explains the exhaustion, right? If I am physically processing the emotional temperature of every single person I encounter on a regular Tuesday, of course I'm drained by 4 p.m.
Absolutely.
But the text makes a really important distinction here about the types of energy or tension we are absorbing. Because it's not all the same, is it? We have to separate organic energy from non-organic energy.
Yes, and this distinction changes how we view everything. Organic energy, even if it's something incredibly heavy like profound grief, legitimate anger, or acute fear, it has integrity.
It's sourced.
Sourced, exactly. It is an emotion that someone actually felt all the way through, meaning their nervous system processed it. Because it has that biological coherence, it behaves like real weather.
So it moves.
Right. A thunderstorm is loud and intense, but it moves in, it rains, the pressure drops, and then it clears. When you encounter someone processing organic energy, it might be intense, but it doesn't leave this sticky, lingering residue on you.
But, I mean, that's not the reality of a normal Tuesday, is it? We aren't usually walking into rooms full of people beautifully and cleanly processing their organic grief.
We absolutely are not. The vast majority of what is circulating through modern offices, our digital feeds, and even our family systems is non-organic energy.
Which is what, exactly?
This is energy that has been discharged rather than felt. It's offloaded. It is basically the emotional equivalent of static noise. The person carrying it never actually metabolized their own feelings. Maybe they were too scared or too distracted, so it just radiates off them as this ambient hum of anxiety or petulance.
Which perfectly sets up this concept from the source material,
Yeah.
the petulance plague.
Yes.
We are swimming in a culture that basically runs on trauma-calibrated reactivity.
Right.
You open your phone, and the algorithm is practically designed to serve you non-organic static.
It thrives on it.
Right. It amplifies outrage that has no real root, rewarding whoever reacts the loudest and fastest. It is essentially emotional secondhand smoke.
That's the perfect way to phrase it.
Because if you walk into a smoky room without a filter, your lungs don't pause to ask if the smoke is from an organic campfire or a toxic chemical fire. They just choke.
We just choke, yeah.
Your unshielded nervous system takes in a friend's genuine organic grief and a random internet stranger's non-organic digital static with the exact same wide open door.
And that unprotected exposure to a corrosive environment fundamentally damages you. There is a phrase the text uses that describes this perfectly. Noise drowns signal.
And that's literal, right?
It's not a metaphor. It is literal acoustics. When your nervous system is saturated with the ambient static of the petulance plague, what gets corroded is your somatic sense of what is actually true.
Let's define somatic here for the listener, just to be incredibly clear, because that word gets thrown around a lot on the internet.
Good call. Somatic simply means relating to the body, how you physically internally feel things, independent of your conscious thoughts.
Like a gut feeling.
Exactly. It's that quiet, reliable, physical agreement in your gut or your chest that tells you when you've landed on a truth, your internal compass.
And the static messes with that.
That instrument absolutely cannot stay calibrated in a body that is busy absorbing everyone else's static. The literal neurological bandwidth required to process a room full of unprocessed anxiety leaves no space for your own internal signal.
Okay, so if walking around absorbing everyone else's emotional static is so metabolically exhausting and literally damages our internal compass, why do we do it?
That's the big question.
Like, why do so many well-intentioned people walk around with absolutely no filter?
Because of how our culture defines goodness. From a very young age, almost no one is taught to notice this biological dynamic, let alone what to do about it, because our society treats extreme porousness as a virtue.
We're told to be sponges.
Right. We're constantly conditioned with commands. Be available. Be understanding. Hold space for everyone. Put yourself in their shoes.
Especially for anyone raised to be a caretaker, or people drawn to therapeutic, wellness, or spiritual communities.
Oh, absolutely.
In those spaces, availability gets completely redefined as an absence of edges. Having a boundary, or declining to absorb someone else's stress, is treated as, like, a small betrayal of love.
It dresses itself up as enlightenment. The prevailing narrative in a lot of these circles is that true openness means dissolving every boundary you have and meeting all things with an undefended yes.
Wow.
Because supposedly, to protect yourself is to admit you still believe in the illusion of separateness. It results in this phenomenon the text calls burnout wearing the costume of devotion.
Burnout wearing the costume of devotion. That is such a striking phrase.
People are utterly depleted, but they convince themselves their exhaustion is proof of how deeply they love the world.
Wait, I have to stop you there and challenge this on behalf of the listener, because this feels incredibly counterintuitive.
Sure, go ahead.
If I put up a filter and I actively decide to stop physically absorbing the pain or stress of the people around me, aren't I just abandoning empathy? Am I not just becoming a cold, detached person who doesn't care?
That is exactly the fear that keeps people trapped in porousness. But taking in everyone's static with an open hand doesn't actually make you a better friend or a more empathetic person.
It doesn't.
No, it just makes you a casualty. True empathy doesn't mean becoming a dumping ground for unprocessed anxiety. Empathy requires you to be grounded enough to know what is yours and what isn't.
Oh, I see.
Think about the biology we just discussed. If your vagus nerve is entirely consumed by the static of the room, you are in a state of stress. You have no calm, regulated bandwidth left to offer the other person.
You're just matching their panic.
Exactly. To actually help someone, you need a tool to discern the difference between their weather and your own.
Which brings us to the difference between armor and the cloak.
Mm.
And this isn't just a difference of degree, right? Like a thin shield versus a thick shield.
Not at all.
It's a completely different mechanism. So let's look at the anatomy of armor first.
Armor is what a nervous system builds after it has been profoundly hurt, usually because it had no better option available at the time. It is constructed out of injury.
Right.
Because of that, armor is highly reactive and incredibly rigid. Its primary biological function is to block. But the tragic flaw of armor is that it cannot discriminate.
It blocks everything.
Yes, it cannot tell the difference between the specific threat it was originally built to defend against and a new harmless situation in the present that just superficially resembles that threat.
So it calcifies. You end up walking around with this heavy armor still welded on years later.
Exactly.
It's like building a massive, thick concrete wall around a house. Sure, it stops the burglars from getting in, but it also stops the sunlight.
Yeah.
It stops the fresh air. It stops the mail carrier.
You're totally isolated.
It keeps out the danger. But in that exact same gesture, it keeps out the nourishment and the connection you were originally trying to protect. Eventually, you just starve inside your own wall.
While the cloak operates on a completely different paradigm, if armor is a concrete wall, the cloak is much more like a biological cell membrane.
Exactly. A cell membrane is porous on purpose. It's intelligent design. Its job isn't to block all contact with the outside world. Its job is to filter.
Right.
The membrane chemically recognizes and selectively lets in the nutrients, the oxygen, the things the cell needs to thrive, while firmly repelling the toxins and the waste.
And that permeability is the magic of it. The cloak lets through what is actually yours to feel, and it declines what was only ever passing through the room on its way to somewhere else.
It's discerning.
And there is another vital mechanical difference here. Armor gets built once out of trauma and gets permanently stuck there. The cloak is chosen fresh, in the body, over and over again.
So you have to put it on.
Yes, you are constantly renewing it, which makes it an active, sustainable practice rather than a traumatic reflex.
Okay, so if the cloak is an active filter, we have to talk about why this is structurally obligatory for anyone who creates, leads, or just puts themselves out in the world.
It's essential infrastructure.
Yeah, it's not just a nice self-care tip.
Yeah.
Because the moment you put real truth, art, or unguarded thought into a public space, you instantly get a target on your back. You become a repository for other people's unmetabolized deposits.
And those deposits take many forms. Some of it arrives as pure projection, people seeing their own unresolved issues in your work.
We see that all the time online.
All the time. Some of it is parasocial hunger, which is this deeply modern phenomenon where people consume a creator's work and mistakenly feel entitled to unlimited access to that creator's actual life.
Ugh.
And then there is the pure algorithmic noise, the bots, the trolls, the ambient hostility of the internet. None of those deposits are optional once you are visible.
And none of it can be metabolized by a nervous system that doesn't have a filter. If you are a public-facing person or a manager or a creator without a cloak, you really only have two outcomes.
Only two.
Outcome one, you go quiet.
Yeah.
Shrink your work down to something so small, generic, and harmless that it won't attract any deposits, which is just a tragic loss of unique voices in the world.
And outcome two, you keep showing up at full volume without a cloak, and you get slowly consumed by the exchange.
You just burn out.
Your biology simply gives out. You burn out, and again, you dress it up as the necessary noble price of being seen. But if your work actually matters, neither shrinking nor burning out is an acceptable outcome. The cloak is basic infrastructure for a visible life.
But here is the mechanism from the deep dive that really gave me an aha moment. It's not just about protecting yourself.
Yeah.
There is this concept of the uncredited transmitter.
This is a huge point.
Let's say I go through my day at the office without a cloak. I absorb the passive-aggressive emails, the tense meetings, all that non-organic static. Because I'm porous, my nervous system is completely overwhelmed by 2:0 p.m.
You're full.
Right. I am now carrying what we can call a leak. I have this unmetabolized residue that I never even chose to carry.
And what happens when you carry that leak home?
I offload it. I walk in the door at 6 p.m. and my partner asks a totally innocent question about what's for dinner,
Yeah.
and I snap at them. I start a fight.
Yep.
I am discharging the afternoon's tension, using my partner as the grounding wire for a storm they had nothing to do with.
This is exactly how the petulance plague keeps propagating. The spread of ambient anxiety in our culture isn't mostly driven by malice.
Yes, ma'am?
No, it is driven by people who were never taught how to hold their own energetic field. They become one more uncredited transmitter in a chain of emotional contagion. Your coworker stresses you out, so you snap at your partner, who then goes online and leaves a harsh comment on a stranger's post. Nobody downstream ever consented to join that chain.
So wait, protecting your field isn't a selfish withdrawal from the world. It's actually a vital community service.
Exactly.
By not wearing a cloak, I am unknowingly infecting everyone downstream of me. Protecting my own nervous system is the absolute precondition for meeting my partner, my kids, or my audience cleanly.
It's a complete paradigm shift. When your filter is active, you show up to your life offering only what is actually yours, instead of handing your loved ones your unmetabolized office residue and pretending it's intimacy.
But there's a massive loophole here, and I can immediately see people abusing it.
Oh, they do?
In certain circles, the phrase protecting my energy has been completely weaponized. People use it to dodge accountability. If someone doesn't want to have a difficult conversation, they just throw up their hands and say, I'm protecting my peace.
It is a very real trap. It is a way of relabeling avoidance as spiritual hygiene. You see it when people decline real feedback, real intimacy, or real accountability. They call the declining sacred, when really, they're just avoiding discomfort.
So how do you know the difference? What is the litmus test to know if you're utilizing the cloak, or if you've just thrown on your old concrete armor and disguised it with therapy speak?
The test is entirely about the nature of what you are filtering out. The biological cloak exists to filter out what isn't yours. The ambient static, the projections, the uncredited leaks.
Right.
It does not exist to filter out the parts of reality you would simply rather not feel. If a friend comes to you with honest disappointment about how you treated them, offered with care, that isn't static.
That's real.
That is coherent, organic material. That is exactly the kind of real weather the cloak exists to let through. If you use protecting my energy to avoid your friend's valid hurt, you aren't wearing a cloak, you're hiding in a bunker.
To prove that this concept of fierce discerning protection isn't just a modern internet wormist trend, the source material looks at some of the oldest frameworks in human history. Specifically, how mythological frameworks understand the primordial feminine.
Yes, the historical context is fascinating.
Culturally, we often have this flattened idea that the divine feminine is purely about passive, endless giving and unconditional porousness.
But if you look at the ancient record, wherever the primordial feminine shows up, she is never only a source.
She has etches.
She isn't just the one who blindly pours the world out of herself and passively watches what happens. She is also, simultaneously and fiercely, the one who actively guards what she has made.
Like the example of Durga from Hindu mythology.
Yeah.
She isn't some passive afterthought. The myth describes her being assembled weapon by weapon out of the concentrated burning fury of the gods, specifically to protect creation from catastrophe.
Yes.
It shows that the protective function isn't unspiritual or mean. It runs hot, it is fiercely active, and it absolutely refuses to let what is sacred be eaten alive by what isn't.
And if you decline that protective half of yourself, if you let your time, your art, or your nervous system go unguarded because you think having boundaries is unkind, you aren't being humble.
What do you mean?
You are engaging in a kind of arrogant forgetting. You are forgetting that you have a duty to protect your own capacity.
There's also Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance. The text notes that Lakshmi requires a swept, guarded threshold to take root in a home.
I love that image.
She withdraws if the door is just left swinging open to the street for whatever wants to walk through unchecked.
I think about this constantly now. It fundamentally means you cannot invite in the good stuff, the grace, the clarity, the deep connection if you leave the front door of your nervous system wide open for the raccoons.
Exactly.
An unguarded field doesn't just let harm in, it actively destroys the conditions required for anything worth keeping.
The cloak is your swept threshold. It is the small, daily, biological version of what Durga and Lakshmi represent at a cosmic scale, sized down to fit an ordinary human life. So let's get incredibly practical. We understand the biology, the stakes, the myths. How do you, the listener, actually put this cloak on during that stressful 4:00 p.m. Tuesday?
The most important thing to understand is that putting it on doesn't require a 10-step meditation or leaving the room.
You don't have to light a candle.
No, it is a felt, somatic decision. It is a continuous, quiet, internal sorting mechanism of mine versus Not mine.
The source material describes it as a specific physical sensation, a slight drawing in around the shoulders and the skin.
Yes, very subtle.
It isn't a harsh bracing for impact, but a feeling closer to being held,
Yeah.
like pulling a heavy, comforting blanket close around you that was already yours.
That physical sensation shifts your nervous system's posture. So if you are at a tense family gathering, wearing the cloak means the difference between your vagus nerve absorbing the room's unspoken tension as a personal threat
Right.
versus noticing the tension clearly, accurately identifying it as a family dynamic that predates you, and realizing it is not your biology's job to solve it. You just let it pass by.
But we have to contrast this drawing in with hypervigilance, because they can look similar from the outside, but they run on totally different engines.
Hypervigilance is a trauma response. It runs entirely on fear. It is fear-based protection, and it is incredibly expensive for your body because you are constantly scanning the perimeter, checking faces, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
It's exhausting.
It burns immense energy.
But the cloak, worn correctly, is actually restful.
Exactly. The cloak relies on the somatic assumption that you are already safe. Think about your actual physical skin. Your brain doesn't spend all day frantically checking if your skin is still there, holding your organs in.
It just trusts it.
It just trusts the boundary exists. The energetic cloak operates the same way. You don't have to scan for danger because you trust your internal filter to do its job. And that foundational trust is what frees you to actually be genuinely open and empathetic with the people in front of you without that openness costing you your health.
So let's bring it all together for you, the listener. Picture that same ordinary 4.0 p.m. Tuesday from the beginning of our deep dive. You have your cloak on now.
The physical environment hasn't changed.
Right. The office room can still be tense. The stranger's bad mood still brushes past you in the doorway. Your work still goes out into the internet and meets all the algorithmic noise. The day doesn't magically get smaller or quieter.
But what changes is what actually gets into your bloodstream.
Because the filter is active, the non-organic tension passes through and clears. It doesn't settle into your shoulders. The stranger's petulance stays the stranger's petulance.
And by evening, when you walk through your front door, you are only carrying what is actually yours.
Which, as it turns out, is far less than you thought you were carrying all these years. The exhaustion isn't inevitable. The cloak was always there, folded close to the skin, just waiting to be remembered and worn on purpose.
And if we follow the mechanics of this all the way out, it leaves us with an incredibly provocative question.
Oh, I like this.
We know that the ambient anxiety of the petulance plague spreads through uncredited, uncloaked transmitters, people leaking their stress onto each other.
Right, the downstream effect.
So what happens to our collective culture when a critical mass of people finally remember how to wear their cloaks? Does the endless algorithmic noise of the modern world simply starve to death when it has nowhere left to land?
Now, that is something to think about the next time you feel the room's tension trying to settle into your shoulders. Keep your threshold swept, friends.